Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Welcome back to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. As always, we thank you for downloading and listening and subscribing to every episode. We've got a big one today, a big guest. We were blessed to have men's basketball coach Steve Lutz join us for an interview. So, man, I can't wait to dive into that. As always, I've got Tyler with me, man. Tyler, you ready to have this big interview?
Well, I'm happier than a kid in a candy shop. I mean, this is an awesome time right here.
Absolutely. As always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @Topper_Talk. Follow our YouTube channel, see every video episode that's at Topper Talk Podcast. And as always, we're going to talk about our sponsor of the episode. That is the Fireman Moving Company. They are the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move anytime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. And I say it every episode, and I will continue to say it, that they are hands down the best decision you'll make while moving. So definitely call them, get that free quote. It'll be worth your time, worth your money, and you will not regret it. But now we got, like I said, we got a chance to talk with men's basketball coach Steve Lutz, and we got to recap his total journey of coming to WKU and just building his staff, his roster, and even the schedule. So let's dive into that interview right now. All right, and we've got WKU men's basketball coach Steve Lutz has joined us. Now, Coach, I know you're a busy man. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us. So welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here.
No problem, guys. I'm excited to be here and love to do it.
Now, I want to talk about your journey, coming to WKU and kind of what's transpired over the last 6 months. And I'm taking a long view at it. I'm kind of, when you got hired, the first thing I did was went and look at your bio to try to get to know more about you. And one of the things that stood out to me was, before you were ever Coach Lutz, you were student athlete Lutz. I saw you played at Ranger College and then at Texas Lutheran. So I'm curious, what were your playing days like, and what kind of player were you when you were a college player?
Man, you didn't have to start this thing off with that, did you? Let's just say I had more success as a coach than I had as a player. I was lucky. I played for a really, really good high school coach. He was in the Hall of Fame, and then my college coach at Texas Lutheran, same kind of deal. Both were fantastic coaches. I probably didn't take it nearly seriously enough, and I tell the players that all the time. In college, I probably had too much fun. And it wasn't until I finished college and graduated and I got into coaching that I finally figured out, you have to dedicate your entire life to this, and it has to be your number one priority, and you have to darn near spend it every waking moment thinking about it. And I definitely was not that as a player. And, we all have regrets in life, and that's one of mine for sure. But when I was dedicated to it, I was pretty good. I was heady and I could shoot the basketball. And, I had a good brain for what was happening and could anticipate things. Therefore, ended up being a solid defender. So I was very lucky, though. There's no question about it, to have played for good coaches that then, propelled me into the coaching part of it rather than the playing part.
Yeah. Coach, it's an honor to have you on. The next question is, was there anything or any person in particular that made you want to get into the coaching profession?
Man, and I can't say that there was one particular person. I guess it was a chain of events And then because as I alluded to earlier, because I had such a good college coach and such a good high school coach, basketball and coaching and athletics was what I knew. But to be very honest with you, I wanted to go into business. And I got into accounting 101 or 202, whatever that was. And I was struggling in that class, and I was tutoring, and I would go to all the supplemental instructions. And I ended up pulling a C in that class. And the teacher or the professor for that class was also my advisor for the School of Business. And he knew me, and we were friendly. And he says, "Hey, Steve, this is accounting 101 or 202. Like, there's 4 or 5 more accountings. It's going to get significantly harder. And I know how hard you work to get this C. Are you sure this is what you want to do?" So nicely, he was trying to tell me that there might be a better career path for me, because math and accounting was not my strength. And with that being said, I went into education and got a degree in education with a minor in business. So I can always, teach business classes in college or in high school if I wanted to. And the rest just kind of fell into place for me. I fell in love with coaching, and that was that.
That's awesome. It's funny. I had that same experience with accounting. I thought I wanted to be an accountant until I took accounting because I'm good at math. And then I realized I didn't enjoy it. So I kind of had that same experience, but went a different route. Since you've been hired, it's been well documented, some of the head coaches that you've worked under in the past, Greg McDermott at Creighton, Matt Painter at Purdue. Is there anything that you took from your time working with those guys and their programs and saw how they did things that you brought into your time as a head coach now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you take a little bit from everybody. The thing I would tell you that's just easy to say about both of them, and what I absolutely took from both, is try to emulate how they treat people and how they treated players. I just, our business and athletics in general, and especially at a place like Western where people love it and you're a little bit under the microscope, it's really, really hard. So it doesn't make sense to make it any harder by berating people or belittling people and not having fun while competing your heart out. So both those guys were great in terms of the way they handled the day-to-day with the players, the way they handled the day-to-day with the staff, and just went about treating people. But then in terms of just basketball, I mean, I took some from everywhere. I mean, a little, or probably the majority of what I do defensively was from a guy named Danny Casper that I worked for at Incarnate Word and Stephen F. Austin. And then, there's some other offensive or defensive things that, maybe I took from SMU or Purdue, but a lot of the offensive stuff is from Purdue and from Creighton. So you kind of take what you like and try to put it into your philosophy and try to put it into action for the way you see the game and the way you want the game to be played. Luckily for me, obviously I was with some really, really good coaches along the way.
Yeah, I mean, like you alluded to, once you worked under them 2 coaches, those are 2 great coaches to get to gather stuff from. Your time at Texas A&M Corpus Christi was stamped with 2 consecutive NCAA tourney berths, something WKU hadn't experienced since 2012. What were those trips like for you and the program?
Oh, I mean, those are life-changing for a university. They're life-changing for a group of people that, came together and didn't really, when we recruited all those guys coming out or at Corpus, we were coming out of COVID. So for the most part, I never got to meet them and our staff. We didn't meet them until we had them on campus in June. And, for those guys to be able to trust us and do what we asked them, and then for it to pay off, I mean, I don't know that there's a larger satisfaction that I've ever had, other than maybe watching my kids grow up and graduate high school and now in college and those sorts of things. So, man, it was just a fantastic deal, but certainly life-changing for all of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. We can't wait to get back there. We know it's coming soon. Looking at when you were officially hired here, you were named the 16th head coach at WKU on March 18th. And I know that first 30 days was kind of a whirlwind of, getting here, meeting staff, meeting players. You're evaluating them, they're evaluating you. At the same time, you're trying to put together a staff and start to build that momentum so that you can build your roster and your staff. So, kind of looking back at that first 30 days, how would you just describe that whirlwind of getting here and just everything that took place before, the floodgates kind of started opening with, hiring your first assistant and then getting Brandon Newman on and then, just kind of opened up from there?
Man, I wish I could say just the first 30 days was crazy, but I mean we just hit September 18th. It's just been 6 months and it just hasn't stopped. College athletics moves really, really quickly. And, to be named the head coach here, 3-4 days after losing an NCAA tournament to Alabama, it just never stopped. It's never really slowed down. I mean, I'm looking forward to practice next week just so I can be around the guys consistently and be on campus consistently and spend time with them. But you just your first job obviously is to try and keep the players that are on the current roster that are good people and fit your system and would help you get to the NCAA tournament. You try to keep those guys, and you spend every moment trying to do that. And some of them, we were able to retain, and some of them left. But then shortly thereafter, you're trying to figure out, okay, this is what we have returning. Now, how do I supplement that again to build a roster that is worthy of the tradition at WKU? And you don't sleep a whole lot. You don't get much time to think through things. You just have to work as hard as you can and make the best decisions you can. And then, once you get those guys, you've got to make the best of it with them because nothing's perfect. You're going to have guys that get there and maybe they thought one thing and it's a little bit different, or you think one thing about them and maybe they don't fulfill those. Or even better is when you think, they might be a little short here and they exceed those expectations. So long story short, man, you're just doing the best you can. And then, you try to get the players on campus, you try to get your staff on campus, and then you consistently just, build your culture, build your family, and make sure everybody's pulling in the right direction at the same time.
And well, speaking of staff, your staff has come together and been finalized. What were some of the qualities or strengths that you were looking for when you were filling these positions, and how do these hires fit those?
Well, I always look for the same thing. I never am going to short-term our program or our university in terms of character. I want men of character that stand for the right things and are able to help mold young people from young men into men. So I always start there. And then, after that, then I look towards recruiting and coaching and everything that comes with the job. And like players, you want to have people on your staff that you enjoy being around, because we spend so many hours with one another. If you don't enjoy their company, it just makes things miserable. So we try to have fun with everything that we do. I feel like that our staff is as good as anybody in Conference USA, and I'd put them up against a lot of people in the country. I think that we're going to have a good season, and I think that we've got a great staff.
Looking at the roster a little bit, you touched on being able to retain some players, and we have 4 returning players and then 9 new players, and we know that you're no stranger to utilizing the transfer portal. We saw your success at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, but how do you go about making all those new faces fit together? Now, if my math is correct, I think we only got 48 days now until our season tips off versus KWC in that exhibition match. So, what are you doing right now to make all those new pieces fit together?
Well, luckily we had probably 75-80% of our roster here in June and July. And, I just I attack it just like you would if you're a teacher in a college or a public school system. I mean, obviously you've got a bunch of different parts, right? And you've got to figure out how to make those parts fit together and get the best out of the parts. And once you put them together, they fulfill the sum, right? So if you have a couple guys that are really, really good shooters, and then a couple guys that are maybe really good penetrators, well, you want to see if you can't figure out which of those people fit together where maybe they have good feel for one another. They can read one another. They can almost know what the other's thinking and doing before they actually do it. And then, okay, now I've figured that out. Well, let's try and keep these two or three together because they work so well together. But it's an inexact science for sure, because, not always does it work out the way you think it's going to work out. And with us, what was the biggest hurdle for us, in the summer was we didn't have everybody here. So, we didn't have Rodney here until he didn't ever work out with the team until August. We didn't get BJ until August. So those are two of the bigger bodies on our team, two of the people that are going to be an inside presence. And you don't even get to work with them all summer, so you don't really know what you have. So the last 2 to 3 weeks has been, I don't want to say an experiment, because it's not a science experiment like when you're in 7th grade, but you're still trying to figure everyone out and where they fit and who works well with one another.
How are you feeling about this WKU team with a lot of new yet several familiar players to our coaches and the brand of basketball that you want to play?
Well, I like our team. I think our talent level is good. They're good people. They've done everything that I've asked them to do in terms of working hard and trying to put their individual goals aside so that our team goals can be accomplished. And obviously our team goals are to make it to the NCAA tournament and to win games. But, in order to do that, you've got to win the league and win the league tournament. So they've been receptive to everything that our staff has asked of them. Has it been perfect every day? Absolutely not. But it's not going to be perfect, every day during the season either. So, it's good to have some trials and tribulations before the season begins, because, that's when you learn about people, is when things don't go well. Everything's perfect when things are going well for us, but when things don't go well, how are they going to react? And, what are they going to do when, their back is up against the wall? Because that's good. That's what's going to be most important to us, is when things don't go well for us in January, February, and March, man, how are we going to react? Are we going to point fingers, or are we going to put everything aside and figure out and do what's best for WKU so that we can win the game and get, be able to realize our goals?
Absolutely. Now, the full basketball schedule was recently released. And hopefully you haven't kept your ear to Twitter and kind of seen the feedback from it. But there's been some chatter in the fan base, about the overall strength of it. But I know, and I know and I hope you get to shed some light on, kind of the challenges that go into filling out, a schedule and making, finding quality opponents. Because, we both know that there's no magic wand that you can wave and schedule anyone in the country that you want to, let us go to their arena or even them come to Ditto Arena. So, I'd love for you to shed some light on just those difficulties and just how it played out into the schedule that we have to look forward to this year.
Yeah, I don't know if you call them difficulties, but there certainly were hurdles. We had some contracts, and I'll use Kentucky Wesleyan as an example. That was a contract that's probably 3-4 years old, and it had just been pushed off. And so when I took the job, Todd talked to me about trying to fulfill some of these contracts and maybe starting afresh in year 2. So we had several contracts that were still needing to be fulfilled that had been pushed off, or just for whatever reason, just needed to be finalized. And, obviously we're all disappointed that South Carolina is not coming to Diddle Arena this year. But the fact of the matter is that, they bought us out of the contract. And that's part of what, happens in Division I athletics at times. And we've got to make sure that we don't allow that to happen moving forward. So we've done our best to add, a Power 5 program to come to Diddle Arena this coming year. It did not work out. We'll continue to do that. But I just, I would encourage all fans to understand that when you're building schedules, especially in light of the fact that our road schedule for mid-major games is really, really tough. When you're building schedules, you have to have an opportunity, especially when you have new rosters, to build confidence. And if you don't build confidence with your team, now that's not to say that you shouldn't have some really quality opponents that are going to test you. And I believe that the Buffaloes of the world, the Wright States of the world, Wichita State on the road, they're going to test us and get us ready for Conference USA. But if you don't have some games in there where you can come back and build some confidence and work on things that need to be worked on within your team and for your program, man, I think you're gonna have a hard time. So we're gonna continue to try and work and have a really good home schedule moving forward. And we're going to try to continue to get Power 5 programs to come to Diddle Arena and work with our administration to do that. But ultimately, we've got to have a balanced schedule that allows us to be tested, be confident, and be prepared when we hit Conference USA. Because ultimately, that's what matters. If we go 13-0 in the non-conference and we don't win the league and we don't win the league tournament and go to the NCAA tournament, I don't know that any of us are happy at the end of the year, right? Our goal and our institution, man, we thrive to go to the NCAA tournament. We just yearn for that every single year, and that's what we've got to build towards.
Before we let you go, Coach, what is the number one thing that Hilltoppers fans can do right now to best support you and our program?
Well, I mean, number one, you've always got to, we've always got to continue to work to get better and bringing other people to the game, bringing friends to the games, just continuing to build our environment. But, and I hate to do this on a podcast, but NIL is becoming so prevalent in Division I men's basketball. If we don't build a really quality NIL program moving forward, we're going to fall behind. And I know that some of the fan base here at Western either it doesn't like it or doesn't understand it, or for whatever reason it doesn't support it. They don't want to support it. I know that that's a level of frustration for people, but the fact of the matter is that it's not going to go away. And the NCAA has opened up an avenue for these young people to be compensated for their name, image, and likeness. And if we don't compensate them, somebody else is going to compensate them, and those programs are going to flourish. So I would just encourage people to ask questions and seriously consider supporting us within our the Red Towel Trust and the Heart of the Hills, those collectives, because they're going to continue to be important in order to build basketball teams moving forward.
Absolutely, Coach. Man, we appreciate you coming on and shedding light on just everything that you're doing with the basketball program and gearing up for the season. Obviously, we're going to wish you and the team a lot of success. We'll be right there in Diddle. We hope it's full. That Diddle magic, when it's full to the rafters, it's a really special place, and I expect that we're going to win a whole lot of ball games. So we appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your schedule to be with us. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. All right, we're back, man. What a absolutely great and amazing interview that was. I really enjoyed getting to talk to Coach Lutz. Definitely, we've got to thank him. We've got to thank Scott Swegan and Seth Holman there in media relations for making that happen, for setting that up for us and allowing us to talk to him. We're pumped for basketball season. As we record this on Tuesday morning, we're 48 days away from the opening exhibition game with KWC. So, man, we're looking forward to that digital magic, getting back in there, having a full crowd, a good student section, and just winning a lot of ball games and supporting this new coach. And you heard him, get behind, support the Red Towel Trust. At the end of that interview, he made an emphasis of how important that NIL and that movement is in college athletics these days. So, Tyler, man, what do you think about that interview? And give us your final words. Take us out of here, man.
Well, no, I was looking forward to that interview. Super excited, super happy that we was able to have him on and let him talk about his journey, a little bit about the team, the coaches, his brand of ball. I'm looking forward to this basketball season, man. I'm ready to get in diddle, like you said, and see the team play, see them kick some ass. Hopefully we get back to that promised land of NCAA tournament. Coach Lutz, it seems like a really great dude. I've heard his press conference whenever he got hired. Whenever he was on a few podcasts, I listened to him. I mean, the boy just seems like a blue collar type. Pack your lunch pail, put on your hard hat, and let's get to work type of coach. And I think that's what he expects from his players. And that's a brand of ball that I can appreciate and I can get behind. So with that, I'm going to say, Moth, who has it better than us?
Nobody, buddy. Go Tops.
Go Tops, y'all.
Later.
See you.
Ciao.